In this video, I want to talk about a very, very advanced topic, and that's long-term strategy. So here's what generally tends to happen. You start making Facebook ads or any other type of marketing for that matter. It starts working. That's great. Yay. And then you bury your head in it and you start, scaling it and testing and improving it and optimizing and so on. And it works great in the short run. But what about the long run? How are you going to take over the market? How are you going to take over the world? You would have no answer to that whatsoever. And so I have a couple of pieces of advice, well, more than a couple actually. I have a full list of things that you need to consider. And I promise you that if you think about those early on, they will pay off in the long run. Most companies, people, and organizations are too focused on the short run. We need to make this quarter work. We need to increase our revenue now. The turnover is going down. All that kind of short-term thinking. And my first piece of advice is to avoid short-term thinking. What does that mean? That does mean that you have to stick your head out of the sand and make time for long-term thinking, or at least someone in the organization must be doing that, and then they need to be communicating it with you and everyone else. If the people in the organization do not know where the organization is going, it's not gonna get there. It might get somewhere else, but it's definitely not gonna, it's highly unlikely it's gonna get exactly there, right? So even if there's someone who knows the strategy, everyone needs to know it. So if you don't know it, you need to make time to figure out what is going to be your end strategy, right? So marketing strategy and marketing itself is a part of business and business strategy. And so for that very reason, you need to have a solid business strategy about how you're going to overtake the market. How are you going to outperform your competitors? How are you going to expand? How are you going to take over the world? And now reversely, ask yourself, is what you're currently doing right now focused on that long-term goal and getting there? Or is it focused on some kind of a short-term goal? And if it is that short-term goal directly connected to getting you there? Most of the time, for most people, most businesses, and most organizations, the answer to that question is no. And I know that because I've worked with entrepreneurs from around the world in different industries, in different countries, and every single time it's the same thing. If the organization gets stuck at one point, it's because of short-term thinking. Now, the next one is kind of an extension to that. Once you start thinking about, long-term, what should you be thinking about? So in random order, number one, economies of scale. How are you going to get the increased efficiency that your company will need to handle the increase in sophistication that comes with more sales and more customers, right? For all of you that have not seen the business and marketing fundamentals courses, we talk about these things there in full extent, and we explain, all the different economies of scale and how they work and what are their effects, and you should know them basically by now. So all these economies of scale, with the increase in production, you get decreasing costs. With the increase in the number of customers, you get critical mass, you get network effects, and so on. With the increase in quality and performance and customer experience, you get better retention, you get higher customer lifetime values, you can afford to spend more for marketing, and these kind of things pile up. and get you to a point where competitors can even compete with you because you're now too far ahead. A good example of that is Google, for example. You just can't get to that level. Facebook has already also gotten to that level. They're in a bit more shaky position, but still too far ahead to start to compete with them now. And that also raises the barriers to entry, protects you from competitors, and all of that good stuff that happens from that. And by the way, specifically, entrepreneurs like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are the greatest example of that, because they generally spend 3 to 4 days in the week on long-term thinking. You would say, yeah, but they can afford it. I can't. I have to work every single day. Well, try and work 6 days in the week, and then on the 7th, try to really spend some time for long-term thinking, strategy, and setting the right objectives. Right. The next piece of advice I want to give you is to build assets. Now, a lot of people are marketing, for example, directly to get sales. They don't have like an omni-channel strategy, thinking in all directions, getting, things like content marketing to work, getting increased optimizations in efficiency, automation, better customer service, better performance, better operations, better logistics. All of that kind of stuff is important. But even if you just look at the marketing, you should be building assets. And if your marketing is also headed in that direction, for example, if you have seen the content marketing course and the social media marketing course, there it's all about building organic assets. And if you do that and then use your marketing money and marketing dollars to enhance that organic strategy that you have, then your actual paid marketing is going to have a long-term effect as well. Because remember, the biggest problem with advertising as compared to organic channels and organic marketing is the fact that you are paying, you're getting results, you pay more, you get more results. But if you stop paying, if something happens, come hell or high water, you will drown. And the problem with that is that once you stop paying, there's no conversions anymore. And if something happens, like there's a global pandemic and turnover goes down, you need to start firing people. You will break up your team, and then you won't have as big of a budget. So now, because you can't spend so much money on advertising, your entire business is going down. And with that, maybe people will also be in something like that Great Depression that just happened, or like the pandemic, whatever. Some downturn in the market is just going on, and now people have less money to spend. They can no longer afford that, and you just can't keep up with all that as a growing organization. So that kind of puts you at risk, and you are being kind of a one-trick pony. So that's kind of building assets with your marketing is a great thing. Now, here's a few examples. First of all, subscription businesses are a great example. You are building assets because your customers are your assets. Another example is content marketing based businesses that are spending their marketing dollars on advertising their actual organic strategy. That's another one. Sometimes it's not so much about advertising, rather than using advertising to probably raise money to invest in the right stuff. And so that's kind of another one of the things that I want to mention. Long-term thinking means that you spend your money on the right things. And it's very easy to go and, yeah, let's do this now. And then various people come with their ideas and, hey, this is a great idea, let's do it. This is short-term thinking. And you need to know that, because what long-term thinking means is that you have a clear and precise strategy. And if someone comes with $1 million idea, if that $1 million idea does not fit into your $1 billion strategy, you don't do it, even though if it's $1 million idea. So that's kind of a great example of how you should prioritize your moves. And thank God, again, from the very beginning in the business strategy course, we were talking about business move prioritization. So how should you prioritize each move in your company to scale optimally and efficiently and to grow your business as quickly as possible? And so that is directly related to that. You do the math. And again, I'll just jump again to our old example over here. When we reached this point over here with scaling our ad campaigns, at one point, the only single move that made sense would be doing something on the business side, right? Increasing the margin. But if we had done that earlier, like in a point over here, maybe that would have had a dramatic effect over time, right? Because time has passed, right? This is time. The time is not going to go back. So if you think of it like this, like the overall money that you have made, and this money is all the money that you can use to actually grow your business, take a look at what happens here. If we did that move earlier, so here the total is 26,000. Take a look at what happens if we actually have made that move earlier. Much better results, isn't it? It's more, but this maybe would have taken some more time, and then we would not get so good in the beginning, right? So the right time to do it was here. And I didn't know that. I needed to do the math. If I knew that it would make just $3,000 of a difference, I would not do it here. I would focus on improving the campaigns and then do that. But then you need to be able to prioritize your business moves in the right way. Now, on the asset acquisition and asset building ideas, you also have the data over time idea. The more data that your organization acquires, the more powerful you become. Just take a look at Facebook and Google. The more data they have, the more money they make. The more videos get uploaded on YouTube, the more money YouTube makes, the more ads get served, and all of that gets better. So it's something that's building over time. It's like the idea of investments. That's why generally it's highly recommended for business people and entrepreneurs to learn about investing and managing money early on. I did not, and I wasted tons of money. Even before starting the company, I was making quite a nice sum of money, but then I wasted all of it because I was not educated enough to invest it. And then if I had started the company with a large sum of money, things would have moved a lot faster. So all this idea of the prioritization of business moves, you should go back to the business fundamentals course and watch that part again, how to determine and mathematically estimate your strategies and take each strategy on its merits, like its likelihood to succeed and its impact. If it's big impact and high likelihood to succeed, you should probably prioritize that over some risky thing that might not get you as much, right? The next thing is very related to this, and this is put your money where it matters. When you do that, it means that you're investing in the right things. And so a lot of people are actually spending money, or specifically like the biggest mistakes, number one in this area is just taking money out of the business. That's a growth advice. No. Just don't do that, because the more money you take out of the business, yeah, you live in better now, but the business is actually operating at a loss, because that money that you take in actually comes out of the profitability of the business, and then the business has less resources to grow and develop. And if your competitors just don't take their money out of their business, they'll have more resources and they will grow faster. And then if that happens for a prolonged period of time, you're not going to be able to catch up, and then you're stuck. And you have to dramatically change your behavior. Another one that, again, on the asset side, and again, this is all related, long-term thinking and investing are kind of very, very similar topics. And that's time decay and nurturing, right? Some people might not be ready to buy your product right away. They might not be ready to buy it for years. Like, for example, if you're selling a more expensive product, and again, let's take BMW for an example, your potential client might be 10 right now, and he's a huge BMW fan, but maybe it will be a few years until that guy can actually afford a BMW, right? So nurturing clients and getting omni-channel exposure and eating up the market in that sense, and getting more and more attention, more and more eyeballs, and nurturing these eyeballs along the way and providing alternative ways of engagement with your brand could be a very serious and winning long-term strategy. And of course, along the way, you do need to kind of tick all their boxes. So they might be a huge fan, but might be like impossible. It might be impossible for them to buy your product, or maybe it's just too expensive to maintain, like in the BMW example, and it's just not a good family car and so on. So you should tick all the boxes in that sense and try to fit that in your long-term strategy. What do you need to do? What steps you need to go through to get to that point? And finally, my biggest advice on long-term thinking would be to use your marketing dollars for long-term goals. Sometimes I know that's not possible, and you need to have your short-term goals, like, for example, Black Friday is coming, and you need to be prepared, and you need to do your Black Friday campaign or something else, or your Christmas campaign, or just make enough money to break even, or some immediate short-term goal that's hanging over your head. But you need to pull the head out of the sand and look ahead, and try to lead your organization forward by prioritizing your actions, planning ahead, investing into the right stuff, putting your money where it matters, and building assets that will yield enormous amounts of return over the long run, right? So that's everything I have on long-term strategy. Do consider it. Don't get your heads buried in the sand or buried in work. Like, that's kind of the same. And do spend some time on long-term thinking, and ask yourself the question frequently and often, how do we get the whole market? How do we get to conquer the world? And just look to the skies once in a while, or rather often rather than once in a while. That's everything I have on long-term strategy, guys. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next video.